Hello and welcome everybody to episode 19 of the Casual Spikes podcast. I am one half of the hosting team here, Dakota, aka Crowday23, here on YouTube. Joining me as always is Randy over at Modern with Randy. Randy, how you doing tonight?
Not too bad. Not too bad.
So we've got some magic stuff to talk about as always. But before we get into any of it, and I struggle to remember every little thing that I want to do because I always end up forgetting at some point. If you are watching this, if you're kind of new to this channel, maybe you're new to Randy's style of content, between the two of us, we do a lot of stuff with Modern and Pioneer. Randy for more focuses on the RCQ seasons and going over a lot of like the popular decks and stuff like that in the format that either doing really well or just look really cool. I kind of do most of the same thing. I try to do some other longer form content as well. So if you're interested in any of that stuff at any point, you're like, hey, I would like to listen to these two knuckleheads talk a little bit more. I will have Randy's channel linked in the description down below. And if you want to subscribe to my channel, then you can just subscribe right here and you'll get access to, a lot of the content that me and Randy post weekly on your daily basis. I guess me not so much. I kind of suck this week.
Yeah, I mean, I try to put out at least 2 videos a week, sometimes more, depending on what's going on. But on average, I put out at least 2 videos a week, usually talking about the RCQ season. So whether it's Legacy, that is definitely not an RCQ season. Whether it's Modern, Pioneer, or Standard going on, I usually try to focus on that. Right now, I've been focusing a little bit more on Pioneer because one, we just had the banning in Pioneer, so the format's actually a viable format again. There's a bunch of different decks that are fun to play and can like actually put up a number now instead of just either being Amalia, um, Sorin Vampires, or Phoenix. So that's kind of cool. Plus, we have the RC coming up in DC here at the beginning of October, which both me and Dakota are qualified for. So we're trying to play test for that. I've been doing some more in-depth conversations about the different decks that are popping up that are doing well, things that I'm thinking about taking as well. So I've been doing more coverage on like, what's going on with like Angels, what's going on with the newest red black aggro deck, what's going on with the deck that I'm looking at taking, the Boros mid range deck that popped up out of nowhere, things like that. Just trying to keep people informed of what's going on as well as the format that actually is healthy.
Very well said. Spoken like a true degenerate Magic player.
Yeah, I've been playing way more Magic than I normally do. I've played like 4 leagues in the last like 3 days.
You know.
Finally actually using my subscription service like that I should be using.
Hey, they have Modern coming up at the end of the month. Play some
Good.
Modern.
Yeah, pretend that that's not an all ring format.
You can play the one non-ring deck that exists in the format.
No, in fact, plays ring though.
Funny. All right, you can play the non-ring deck that good players play and
Uh,
Strom.
no, no.
But yeah, so I guess we'll kind of just go right into it. We'll start with Modern, just because I think it's still like the resident, like most popular format among players. Like I think no matter how bad Modern is, I think it was so good for so long that people either hate play it or it's actually a really good format and people love playing it.
All right, I can break down modern in like 4 seconds. Are you playing the ring? No. All right, you've lost the tournament. Are you playing the
Congratulations.
ring? Yes. All right, prepare for the mirror match of ring decks.
No, so are you playing the ring? If no, are you playing Storm? If that's no, then be prepared to lose.
So you admit that blue black Murktide is bad.
No. I
You don't
think
play the
there's
ring.
like there's totally play the ring. Like that's just so stupid.
Well,
I've seen
there's
someone
there's
playing.
yeah, it's blue black control because they play Children too.
It's Murktide. Is Murktide in it? It'd be Murktide.
I know. No, Murktide's
Murktide,
like not in that version.
Blue Black Murktide might be like the one deck where I think it'd be acceptable to like not play the ring, but it should totally just play the ring. But it also just probably ends the game faster than most other like decks playing things that have counterspell on them.
So the biggest problem with blue black Murktide, in my opinion, is that your card value engine is the frog, which is fine, but you never want to just slam frog onto.
Just end the game.
Like if they just have like the fatal push for it, you're just like, cool, I just wasted like my best card.
Who's playing Fatal Push?
Um, there's a couple decks playing fatal push.
Oh yeah, I mean, I know there's a couple decks playing Fatal Push. I think probably just with the popularity of like the red damage based spells that for like slamming frog on two like isn't, I don't think is like that crazy. I think that it's like you play this and your opponent tries to damage it unless they have like two follow ups to it.
So
Yeah.
the problem is it's not crazy. The crazy part is that Boros then displays like three spells on their turn three, and you're like, cool, I'm just now behind.
Yeah. It's
And you stay behind. And I think that's my problem with the deck. Is that I think it is playable, but I think that it is infinitely worse than what you can be doing.
well yeah,
Like,
who wants to play Force and Negation and Counterspell in their deck when you have things like Blood Moon and Ocelot Pride?
yeah, come on, who doesn't want to play the $60 cat?
I mean, I'm in for it.
I mean, I would be if cat wasn't so goddamn expensive.
But you make a good point. There's a lot of the ring going around. I think it's like now de facto, like if you even if you include lands, it is the most played card among all modern decks, with results from challenges, leagues, and other various large
Yeah,
tournaments.
yeah. MTG Top 8 has it as the most played card now, which is wild to think about because lands are still counted in the most played card list. So like, it's surpassed like Aaron Mesa being the most played card, which is just baffling to think about when the essentially top three decks or like top three colored decks are Jeskai, Control, Boros Energy, and then Mardu Energy, all of which play like four copies of Aaron Mesa. So like just the fact that like the three best color decks are also somehow playing more copies of the ring than Aaron Mesa, along with like obviously like the Eldrazi's decks are playing the ring too. So like that's where you get your discrepancy from. But it's just wild to think about that like essentially the three best decks when you talk about like not counting the colors decks and like the top like 5-10 decks are all playing four Air Mesas, and the ring is so popular in all the other decks as well that it's taken over Air Mesa.
Yeah, it's just wild. Plus, I think too, maybe for because I always thought it was weird that like lands were like the most considered like the most played things when I don't know, kind of like whatever about it. But yeah, like the ring has like reached a level of play that like most cards only dream of I guess only dream about getting there. Like just
Yeah,
actual de facto the most played thing in the format, above anything else, is this 4 mana artifact.
yeah. So if you go to MTG Top 8 right now, it is 45% of decks are playing the One Ring. Aaron Mesa is in 42% of those decks, and then the next is Flames at 35%, tied with Sacred Foundry at 35%, and then Arena of Glory at 34%. So the top five most played cards are still three are lands,
Mm.
which is wild that like the ring has now become more power or more played than lands.
The very thing you need to cast the spell,
Yeah,
and it outranks all of them. I mean, it's crazy to think when this card was spoiled. I think a lot of people's initial reaction was like, it's 4 mana. All it does is give you an extra turn. It'll draw you a few extra cards. This might be a fun commander card, but it probably doesn't have a home in modern. To this has been a part of ban discussions and been in the mix and out of the mix for basically its entirety of existence in modern.
yeah. We went it it did it did the grief really like borrowing how grief was because grief was like it's gotta get banned before it even gets into the hands of the players to this card doesn't need to get banned, this card needs to get banned, this card doesn't need to get banned, needs to get banned. And it's just crazy that like the ring went from this is not going to be playable, like Tron will probably play this because it's a colorless draw engine,
Hmm.
to this card needs to get banned, to where it died down, no one was really like people weren't playing the ring as much, back to it needs to get banned, to now it's the most popular card being played in modern.
Yeah, it's
And basically pretty much everyone thinks it's going to get banned in December.
Hey, I remember I made a video back in July where I'm like, if this is gonna be like a feature of the modern format, at least make it so, you're not paying well over $100 per copy. And we are living in a timeline where, so far that is true. Yes, we can reprint it, but is there gonna be a reason to reprint it if it's banned in the most popular and played format that it's in? Who knows?
So
Probably not.
right now you can pick them up for $82. Thank you.
Mm.
As long
Except,
as you're fine with playing foils.
which one's that one?
It's the bundle one. The bundle one's foil.
The bundle one's down to 82.
Yeah, that's the cheapest ring.
Oh, the very cheapest. Okay.
Yeah. Then if you want to play the non-foil, non-special one, it's at 150. And then from there it goes up to $200.
Yeah, that's already ridiculous. I don't care if you want to if someone's gonna argue and say, well, the ring's affordable because there's one person selling one copy for like $85, you can go fucking talk to a wall. Like that's not good.
There's multiple people selling it for like under 90.
Man, whatever. So
I'm just
like
saying,
a
in
hundred
general.
150 so $350 or whatever for like a playset for this card, like is
Yeah.
absolutely like just I don't know. I'm definitely of the mindset of like I don't give a shit if my cards hold value after I buy them. I'm literally going to play with them. Um, and sure, I might sell cards, and like that's the only benefit I get from them having value. But I could care less. I'm just like, whatever. I'm gonna buy it,
Oh
never
no,
sell it, more
no,
than
for
likely.
sure. Like as someone who follows, I think it's been Gucci's
Yep.
thought process of buy high, never sell,
Buy high, never
watch it get
sell.
banned.
The Mengu way.
Yeah. Um, like I definitely am now in a part of like multiple bannings where like my Furies got banned, my Griefs got banned, my Violent Outbursts got banned, and I had the special kitty ones that were more expensive. Um, RIP to them, they did nothing wrong. Um, you know, I think the ring's gonna get banned, and if it doesn't get banned, it needs to get reprinted as like a rare, not as like a mythic. That it's 100% gonna be put in as. So Modern's definitely in a weird spot. I don't think Modern's in a bad position. I do think that aren't playing the ring, you need to have a game plan for that, and you need to have a reason why you're not playing the ring. I mean, if your reason is that you're poor, I get it. Like, trust me, I 100% get that. There's a reason why I don't have Shieldred. It's not because I think it's a bad card. It's because I don't have the money to justify to buy them. It's also the reason I'm going to be looking for that card. Yeah, Authority of Councils out of my bulk and storage because that card's worth $10 and not worth $10. But
Yeah.
like I said, if your reasoning though is that you're not playing the ring because you can't afford them, that's a valid reason by 100%. Like you're not gonna lose game. Like you might lose games because you don't have the ring, but like you can play a competitive modern deck without playing the ring. That is not unheard of. But for sure, it is gotten to the point though where every deck is now playing the ring basically. Like I showed you the infect list that I was working on that is playing the ring. Like we've come a little too far for where like infect's playing the ring. Like come on, this is a problem.
Yeah, like I think just about every deck with the exclusion of like very few decks that could possibly exist in modern and maybe perform decently, you might as well just be playing the ring. Like if you have four of them, literally just play it. There's no reason not, competitively speaking, there is no reason not to play the ring if you have access to the ring.
Yeah, I mean outside of playing like unless you're playing like the blue black or Demir Murktide or excuse me, or you're playing like Prowess or for some reason you think Creativity is still a viable deck. Um, or I guess Gordiel's Vengeance. Those are like the big ones that are like C play, and Gordiel's Vengeance is an actual real deck. But outside of those decks, if you're not playing that, you should definitely be playing the ring. And like I said, if your reasoning for not playing the ring is you can't afford it or you don't own them, valid reasoning. I'm not gonna sit here and judge you by any means because I've been in that boat where like, hey man, I really want to play this deck, but I'm poor.
Yeah, stacked on top of that too, you should just play like Boros Energy as well.
Yeah, if you have the cards or can afford to play the cards or anything like that, that's the deck you should be playing in your RCQs. Like Honestly, it should be either Boros Energy or probably one of the Tron variants, like one of the Eldrazi Tron variants running around. Like those are one of the two decks I'd be playing if I had the cards for it.
Yeah, I especially love and you know, of all the Tron, or I guess I'm gonna say the Eldrazi decks, Ugin Labyrinth decks or whatever. I
Yeah,
actually really like the Tron variant, but I also really like the Teamer like ramp variant over the Through the Breach one.
yeah, I've started to fall more in love with that. Um, but yeah, I definitely think that's what you should be playing if you want to be playing in an like if you want to be taking down RCQ. Like those are probably the two decks you want to be playing is some kind of Eldrazi like Ugin's Labyrinth deck or playing Boros Energy. I think is your two best bets to be playing it. And I'm definitely contemplating building Boros Energy at this point. And I need to buy Ocelot. Like I need only like a couple cards to build that deck, but Ocelot Pride is one of those cards I need.
Such a good card.
Should have bought it when it was $20. Did not think it was going to spike up to like 60.
Buy high, never sell.
The way, the way,
The
the
Mangu
way.
way. So I
But
mean, yeah, moderns. I don't know. Like moderns, like odd. I feel like oddly diverse, but it's also feels at the same time like very homogenized on this one archetype that exists.
yeah, I mean, I think the problem is like the deck is like the biggest problem I think is that energy is just such a big portion of it. Like between Bordeaux energy and Mardu energy, MTG Top 8 has it at like 23% holding of the meta for the last 2 weeks. And I think the fact that like it has such a meta share is a huge deal. So it just feels like it's doing so well. And I think Bordeaux energy and Mardu energy is falling into the same problem we saw with footfalls Rhinos,
Mm-hmm.
where it was such a good deck, there wasn't a reason not to play it, and especially on Magic Online, like cost isn't really a problem, right? Like if you have a rental service, like you're not buying these cards anyway, so like it's not crazy that you're gonna see a bunch of people playing, the facto best deck, right? Like
Mm.
if I can run it and play it, why would I not play it in the challenge? Like what's my reasoning for not playing the best deck? Like when Nadu was the best deck, the reasoning was that it's a horrendous to play on Magic Online. Boros doesn't have that problem. You can easily play. You could play like two. You could play two matches in the time limit you get for online. Like you're not running out of time playing Boros Energy. Like that's not like I got 5 minutes to play game three because it was so challenging. It's like that's not happening.
Very
Excuse
true.
me.
Yeah,
So
I mean, there's just so much stuff like going on with the Boros deck that just makes it so good against like the meta game in general. Where from being able to like high roll and like blood moon somebody on turn two like on the play, and that still being a very powerful thing to do in 2024, to just you know multiples of either the life gain guy or the ocelot pride just means that you can go tall and wide.
yeah, Guide of Soul plus Ocelot Pride.
A Johnny is such a beating too. Like when you get Ocelot Pride going, if you have two prides plus a flip to Johnny, like that's just I don't know. That's like brain numbing. Like I'm like I don't want to fucking play against this. Like I don't have a way to beat this, but I have to sit here and wait for you to turn them sideways for me to die, and like that's just boring.
Yeah, but like I said, I still think modern is in a healthy standpoint. I think it's just one. It's we're suffering from the same thing of like when Rhinos was good. I think we're in the same boat where like deck is good, people play it because it's good. It feels like it's more oppressive and more of the meta than it really is. Like yes, Laura's energy is 13% of the meta, but like it's also like not that crazy. Like the deck is still very beatable. Like you can beat that deck. Like it's not winning every tournament, and we see it not winning every tournament. Does it put up multiples in the top 32? Yes, but it's not like we're not seeing you know uh 36 copies of Ocelot Pride in the top 8. It's not broken or ridiculous. It's just a good consistent deck.
Yeah, and that pisses me off because I so badly for this mana traders thing. I really want to play Storm. All right, I'm like committed to like what I played this deck badly. I'm sure the more I play it, it's gonna be better. So I really want to play it for like the mana traders like modern Swiss or whatever, but like I just can't bring myself to like not go to somebody I know that knows how to play Boros Energy and just like learn how to play that deck and just get some pointers. Shout out to Damien by the way because he's been crushing with it. Hasn't I don't think gotten his invite yet, but he's been top eighting a bunch of RCQs with it, so
I'd say I would take a
he
look at
knows who he is.
young Dingo if you want to take a look at like good Boros deck.
Probably a good list. I just know that at least with like with him like with Damien, like I know that he's just got like experience. I think he's also somebody that I don't know. He just works on stuff like so much that I just like okay, he's probably right. I'll
No,
take his
no, I
word
mean
for
that's
it.
fair. That's fair. But I don't think I have anything else to say about Modern, other than I think it is a healthy format, even if it looks like it's not.
Go play your RCQs, kids. Play Boros, win
Play
games.
Boros, cast the ring.
That's true. If you cast more rings than your opponent, odds are you are able to win the game.
Yes.
It feels like that should just be a true statement. Or just play Storm, and then there's like some variants where you don't even care about your opponent playing the ring. You just say, "Cool, bro. I'm gonna take an extra turn, and then I'm gonna make 60 goblins."
Exactly.
All right, but we can get to the real like meat and potatoes of Magic because like we know Modern, like even though that's like the RCQ season and everything, good, great, fun stuff. And the format's like all right, I suppose, whatever. Me and Randy have bigger fish to fry, and that fish to fry is Washington D.C.
Yes.
And no, we're not campaigning. I know that we would be great at running the country. I would reprint Shieldred and the One Ring into the absolute dirt, and that's probably good enough for me to get secure like 99% of the vote from Magic players. The 1% is the people that invested in Shieldred and the One Ring. I can't help it. I'm like, there's a Shieldred. I'm like, that's Shieldred right there. It's a great card. Have you heard of it?
I said it was a great card. I saw it.
I said that's a great card. Oh my god. But uh I tell you what. Ow. All right. Anyway, done making fun of dumb politicians. So Pioneer, obviously Amalia and Sorin Imperious Bloodlord was probably a more impactful banning on like the whole of a format than Nadu and Grief was. And Pioneer has kind of seen some new decks, like new-ish decks, kind of pop up, and some familiar faces have kind of regained some notoriety in the format. I know that I have I listed on my little cheat sheet here. We're seeing I guess Boros Convoke and the like kind of see more play coming up. Rakdos Sack, there was like basically no point in playing that deck with Amalia and the Rakdos Vampires running around, and now it's a deck that
Actually, Rakdos Vampires was the main reason because they put
yeah
out Vein Ripper and you can never sacrifice your creatures.
yeah
You're like, hey man, I'm gonna drain you for one. That's cool. I'm gonna drain you for two. So that's cool. I'll take one. You'll take two. I'll still gain one life. You can keep sacrificing that cat as much as you want.
keep doing it. I'll let you untap the oven every time a food comes into play.
Yeah.
But like that's kind of an example. Like those are some of the decks that were like I would say heavily suppressed by Amalia and the Rakdos Menace, and of course now we're seeing, you mentioned earlier, Boros aggro is starting to see a lot of play. I think Goldfish has is like the second most played deck, the second or third most played deck in the format currently.
Gotcha. Yeah. Give me one second. I can tell you. I have
Hey
Goldfish
Jamie,
pulled
can
up
you pull
here.
that up for me, please? Jamie, pull it
uh,
up.
so in the last so this is the last 14 days. We have Rakdos Aggro is the most played deck, you know, 15.8% of the meta, followed by Is It Phoenix, which isn't surprising at 14.5, and then Jund Sacrifice is 10.5% of the meta. Boros Convoke is only 4% of the meta, which is what is that? 3, 6, 7, 8, the eighth most played deck. But I mean, still, it's 4% of the meta compared to when Amalia was in the format at 0% of the meta.
That's true.
The craziest thing I think is that Selesnya Angels is 7.6% of the meta right now.
And I said it in my video that I uploaded, I guess as of I'm recording this today, but then when this is going up yesterday, I was kind of surprised because like the Selesnya Angels deck feels like a deck that like shows up in like the beginning of like a new format for Pioneer, and then it kind of like falls off, I think, just as quickly as it shows up. And then I think now it's actually kind of sticking around and at least showing that, hey, maybe I'll kind of stick around. I'm not going to go out and get milk this time.
Yeah, so um, I think I think the thing that has Selesnya Angels sticking around is that it's a good deck against like the Rakdos mid range deck that we all knew was going to still exist. You know, Sword got banned. It goes back to Rakdos goes back to the weird Rakdos mid range it was playing. Um, it's not terrible against Jund Sacrifice because it puts a lot of pressure on them. It's not terrible against Is It Phoenix because it has angels that can block the Phoenixes. It has beefy. It can have beefy angels once it gains some life, and those are just better than your Phoenixes and Legend Shredders. And it has game against Rakdos aggro as long as Rakdos aggro doesn't kill him first. Um, as someone who's played 2 leagues of Rakdos aggro, and what was I played against Angel I think a couple times. So I played against Angels twice. Nope, that was for light control. Hang on. I played against Angels once, and I beat them, but I beat them, but game one they literally didn't do anything until turn three, so like that wasn't a real game.
Game over.
And game two, I I was able to kill them because of the sacrifice ability with the new like cutthroat guy or whatever he's called.
The Callous Cell Sword.
Yeah, Carousel Sword. Basically because of that, I was able to kill him because I was able to pump up my little mouse and then sacrifice it and do like 14 damage to him out of nowhere. And that's the only reason why I beat them.
Because it's so good. It's so good.
But like, I do think that if like game one they were like playing an elf on turn one, playing an angel on turn two, angel on turn three, like that game is definitely not just like me winning. So I think it's definitely a harder matchup for that deck as a whole. And I'm not 100% sure what they have in the sideboard, but like Bishop of Wings pretty much is just horrendous to play against.
That's what I
That's the
call.
double white 1/4 that whenever an angel comes into play, you gain 4 life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that card's horrendous to play against as an aggro deck. It was like awesome. You gained 8 life this turn. You know what I did last turn? I did 8 damage. That's cool. You time walked me basically, and you advanced the board with bigger threats than my 1/2s.
You
Why am I
also
playing this matchup?
you also have like Righteous Valkyrie and stuff too that just I'm gonna
Yeah,
just gain a ton of life, and then also I'm gonna have a +2/+2 for all my creatures. So like now you're basically never gonna be able to kill them unless you have hard removal.
yeah. It's not a good matchup. Like, so we're still seeing a lot of aggro in the format, and I think because we're still seeing a lot of aggro, Angels is good against that. Like Angels can like never beat like Azorius control. Like it can like it's the same thing like where like it can beat Azorius control, right? Like Azorius control could not have its board wipe on 4, its board wipe on 5, and then fairy on 6. Like that can happen, but like when Azorius control has its board wipes and then counter spells to back it up, it's just like cool, you're never winning this game. You got me to 13, congratulations. You're at 86. Eventually I'm gonna win no matter what you do.
This
It'll
anchorage.
Yeah, like I will either eventually beat you down or I will Teferi deck you. Like, take your pick. One of these two things is happening, but you aren't winning this game. It's turn 7, I'm not dead.
Mm.
And that's pretty much how that matchup usually goes. Is it's turn 7, I'm not dead. You've lost the game, Angels. You just haven't like actually lost the game. You can concede now, or we can play out 20 minutes in this tournament.
Please and thank you. I would love to win game one and then only have 3 minutes left to play game two.
Yes, I will be happy to play that. So, but I do think that that's why we're seeing Angels still be a big part of the meta. Um, but I do think that the metagame is very healthy. It's very diverse. I need to work on blue white control and see how good that deck is because I think the deck I'm playing might just be a worse version of blue white control.
Hmm? Oh, but I don't know. Your deck looks like it's a million times more entertaining than just playing counter spells.
It is. That's the problem. Is I really have fallen in love with this deck, but I think I might just be playing a worse play control list.
Yeah, whatever.
But Jund Sacrifice has like kind of taken off too. That is a deck that kind of went from 0 to 100%. We had Sorin get banned basically, and Jund Sacrifice became a very good deck all of a sudden, especially with its new combo kills.
Yeah, I mean Bloomborough definitely helped this deck to kind of jumpstart kind of the I guess jumpstart to the fast track of being, a top deck in the format.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, still kind of folds to like Graveyard Hate because it definitely sucks, but like I don't
Yeah,
know. Yeah, I mean it sucks against like the Graveyard Hate, and you're not really in great colors like green. I've noticed that like you really just have like Haywire Might, and like that's like your enchantment removal or
yeah.
artifact removal.
Is it? Can you guys can that deck play Besiju?
I'm not willing to play it.
Okay.
So I think a lot of kind of like what I'm thinking here and like the concept that most of these sack builds are going for is like you basically have green in your deck because in the off chance that you like it's very hard for you to draw 5 lands and not have a green source that also helps you cast your spells when you need them to not be green, and then like eventually you'll cast Yigra and then maybe you'll be able to activate your Haywire Might or whatever in the board. So I think more than anything, I think the green splash is literally just like play this card if we can't get it back with a talent, or activate the Haywire Mites in the sideboard.
Gotcha. Okay.
And I don't think Beseju is worth a land in the deck when there's just chances where you draw 2 lands and then one of them is like whatever the a Blood Crypt and the other one's a Beseju, where like I think that's just like a snap mulligan.
Gotcha. Okay. I was just kind of curious. I haven't really played too much of the deck. I played against it a couple times, but I wasn't sure if there's anything else to be green for essentially.
I think you have I think it's like fine kind of the way that most of them have been built. I think there's a few cards that I know we've talked about that I kind of want to try in the deck,
Yeah.
but I think I'm pretty so far sold on like what a stock list looks like. So I'm willing to kind of experiment leading up to the event, and then either play stock or play some of the new things.
Gotcha. I guess I'll quickly talk about the deck that I'm working on or I'm thinking of taking. Um, so I'm not sure if any of you guys have seen it or heard about it yet. It's the Caretakers red white deck that's been running around. Um, it's kind of got popularized by the idea of like High Noon plus Possibility Storm. I think that that's a very cute idea, but I think Possibility Storm is a terrible card to draw. And I know that from playing 2 different leagues with it, basically. So I've definitely changed the list as a whole. High Noon is a hell of a card. Probably one of the best cards that I have been casting in Pioneer. It turns out that like if you want to beat Phoenix, cast High Noon on 2. That deck can't beat that card. That deck can't beat High Noon ever. Like you're just gonna, as long as you're playing some number of the other spells, you cannot lose to Phoenix if you cast High Noon on 2. It's just I don't think it's possible. And then so we're playing Caretaker's Talent, which I guess let's go over that in case people aren't playing standard or anything. It's an enchantment class card. It costs 2 and a white, and it has whenever one or more tokens you control and enter, draw a card. This ability only triggers once each turn. You can level up to level 2 for 1 white, and you get to create a copy of a token you control. And then for 3 and a white, you get to have creature tokens you control get +2/+2. And then we're playing the Carrot Cake to go along with that, which is a 1 and a white artifact food. When it enters the battlefield or when you sacrifice it, you create a 1/1 white rabbit creature token and you scry 1. And then you can have the food ability of pay 2, tap, sacrifice it, gain 3 life. But we also get to play Fable the Meter Breaker, Sunfall, Wandering Emperor, Torch the Tower, which we can use the bargain with Carrot Cake. We'll still get our 1/1 and the Scry 1, plus then we'll get to Scry another one with the Torch the Tower's bargain ability. Um, I'm trying out some wedding announcements, some deafening clarions, some little board wipes. The sideboard is a sideboard. We haven't exactly figured out what we want to do for the sideboard yet. Excuse me.
Oh, sorry, I had a yawn. Not like legitimately like no
Uh,
cap skippity riz.
but and then you get to play 26 legends or so the decks have been playing 25. I went up to 26, but you get to play like Castle Ardenvale, uh, Field of Ruin, Fountain Ports, um, Sunken Citadel. Just you get to do a lot of things, and you get to kind of just slowly control the board and win. And it's a little crazy how much you can just turn the tide with Caretaker's talent. Just being able to turn that into all your creatures are now 3/3s. You just kind of turn the board real fast.
Yeah, all right, I see it.
But I'm not sure if this is just like not a more dirtily version of blue white control.
It's definitely a lot more entertaining than blue white control. I'll say that.
It is, but I do need to try out blue white control and kind of see how I feel about that deck as a whole, because that deck has been doing halfway decent and has been putting up numbers.
Oh yeah.
So we'll see if I end up taking blue white control like I should have in Atlanta.
No, I'm sure. I mean, I don't know. I have a lot of respect for probably control decks in maybe the wrong formats, but uh, I don't know. I've
Like,
also been dumpstered by blue white control like too many times, like trying to play test like mono green and things like that. And I'm like, I don't understand like how.
yeah. So my biggest problem with this deck is it cannot beat blue white control. Like you feel like angels when you're playing this deck, except that you don't ever get to turn the corner fast enough to like beat like control.
Mm-hmm.
So you're just like, you're doing everything I'm doing, but you also draw more cards than me. And have these things called counter spells.
Which
Yeah, I don't
is
have those.
super rough when you are the like, hey, we can each only cast one spell. Cool. All right. I'm gonna do a thing. No, you're not.
Yeah. Um I will say, though, that I do think High Noon is a very underrated card right now in modern, or sorry, not Pioneer, sorry, in Pioneer. Every deck wants to play more than one spell a turn right now, and like when you just stop them, it's crazy. Like the fact that like I think because I play 3 High Noons in my deck, my win percentage against Phoenix is probably like 80% now because you can just slam it on like turn two and they don't have spell pierce, the game is over. Like you can still lose, sure, but like it's gonna be really hard for you to lose. You need to like also then just only play lands for the rest of the game.
Yeah, I think High Noon. Oh, excuse me. I think for some of the decks, that's like the best way to catch up is to play more spells. Turns out, play more spells than your opponent. There's a very good chance that you're going to win the game. And I think when you get to at parity or slightly ahead, and then you drop this card that says you can only play one thing a turn, and your deck just full of answers, it's like hard for them to. It's hard for them to be able to like actually catch back up and finally get to at least even. And the
Mm-hmm.
fact that High Noon itself, like you can just decide whenever, like okay, like I don't need to be locked into this anymore. I think the game's like almost over. You can like five them for lethal, or like I said, just get rid of it, and like you don't have to play from underneath of it. You can cast some spells and then just play another one, and then your opponent's under the same boat where you
Yeah,
get to play around yours.
yeah, it's kind of crazy. Like the ability to sacrifice it is what makes that card so good too. And like I've had this happen now in more than one game where I was able to like play High Noon, slow my opponent down, and then like a couple turns later, like, oh, I'll slam Shieldred. That's cool. End of your turn, I'm gonna kill Shieldred. Like you played your one spell, congratulations. Your one spell now got negated by this card that I already had on the field, and now I'm gonna untap and play like three things. Thank you.
Any consideration to playing 20 more cards and playing Yorion?
I've thought about it. The one thing I hate Yorion decks. I absolutely hate Yorion decks. And it's the thing I hate about Blue White Control is like Blue White Control tries to play Yorion sometimes. I'm like, no, stop that. stop doing this bullshit. Um, I have thought about it. And I don't. I think it would ruin the consistency of the deck though, because like we don't have a lot of like good enter the battlefield things in my deck. Like
Hmm.
right now, the only thing I have that's really good is like resetting Fable. Excuse me, resetting Fable, resetting Caretaker or not Caretaker now, Carrot Cake, and that's not really good enough. Like I'm sure I can find more things to put in there with 20 cards,
Hmm.
but like I don't know if that's really where I really want to be.
I mean, start flickering your own high noons.
I
Here's my
also
one
think
spell. It's a 4/5. Now I get to play more things. Hey, high noon's back.
I also think if I went that route, I probably would make it a blue white control, like a blue white like tokens build.
You could probably play like Builder's Talent too, because then it's just gonna make a
Yeah.
wall, and then like you actually want to blink that, because then you can level it up to like rebuy cards from your graveyard.
Hmm. I don't know. There's a theoretical build for that too. Like I said, I'm only on Boros Control 1.1. This is the first league where we actually changed anything with it, and I don't feel bad about the changes I made, except for Clarion. Definitely Clarion feels really bad after I kind of like read it more, or not read it more, but like had to interact with it because I thought it would be good against like the aggro decks. So I'm
That's
still contemplating if I want to maybe put something else in there instead. And I had some changes in mind that we talked about earlier, where I think I'm going to change some things and maybe play some like Rest in Peace or not Rest in Peace, some of the Wreckages in the main or something like that, and play maybe more spot removal and such. But we'll see. We'll see how the deck can like continues to progress. But I like it so far. I do need to start playtesting some blue white control though, and to see if this is a better, like a worse version of blue white control. Because blue white control could also play high noon very easily.
I mean, yeah, I guess. I suppose. Had to reread all 8 words on Deafening Clarion. Make sure.
There's more than 8 words.
What was it? Deal 3 damage to each creature. I suppose so.
Or creatures you control gain
Gain
lifelink till end of turn.
lifelink.
And you can choose one or both.
End of turn. Choose one or both. All right, so there's like 19 words on that card.
Yeah.
Still, there's more words on a third grade spelling test than there are on Deafening Clarion.
I mean, that's fair. That's fair.
I guess if you
But
count the letters, it's yeah, whatever. The one
but
letter or
but
word, no letter, fuck, number, damn it.
okay, we're gonna move past this before you have an aneurysm.
I know because I keep saying it. It only has one letter, but it's a one number because numbers and letters are apparently hard. I can't count those on fingers.
But I do think Torch the Tower is where you want to be at for removal spells if you're not like an aggro deck. Being able to just exile things is really good. Like it also like helps against the Phoenix list. Just being able to like hit their creatures and kill them. Like being able to kill Phoenix dead to where it's just like, cool man, it's gone. It's out of here.
I think fitting like a little bit bigger a role too because of the Heartfire hero or whatever like needs to
Mm-hmm.
die to get its trigger, and it doesn't trigger when it leaves the battlefield. So like that's something to what was it? That's something to also consider when playing like Torch the Tower.
Yeah, it helps with the aggro deck running around. It helps with the Phoenix X running around. And it can also hit planeswalkers, which isn't, nothing.
Yeah, and I guess just enough like things die to like 2 damage, and then like the added benefit of getting to exile them is just a good enough reason to play it with a chance to upgrade it too and kill some 3 toughness things and get a little scry action in there.
Yeah, which is pretty good when we have like little fishies running around, rabbits that we just need to slaughter.
Yep, we need to send them to the cosmos.
Exactly. But Pioneer is definitely in a weird position. I think there are a bunch of decks that are viable. I think that what I'm playing right now is very interesting, and I keep wanting to playtest and do it, and I have to go to work every day instead, so that's fun.
Yeah, Pioneer I think is at a point where I think Modern was back in like its heyday. I'll say like the 2017s, whatever, like that time where it seemed like a different deck was winning every tournament. While I think that it's probably not like that diverse, but I think there's like enough decks that are definitely viable, that are, all do something that is very powerful in like the context of like the Pioneer format, and then also powerful in the general meta. Like there's decks that are powerful because they're doing powerful things, and I think there's other decks that have a lot of good tools and can do powerful things because of the powerful things being done in the format. So I think there's like plenty of decks that are viable in the format currently. It feels like there's a lot of diversity in it. Really, like mono green is kind of like one of the more mono green and Lotus Field are like pretty toxic decks, and I was worried about them seeing a lot of play. And currently, they are on the pretty far on the low end of metagame share compared to some of these other decks.
Yeah, I say so. Lotus Field's sitting at 2.2% meta over the last 14 days, and uh, Nixos or Mono Green Ramp is sitting at like almost 5%.
Okay.
But I mean, also Mono Green, one of those decks too, like does this kind of like you can beat Mono Green if you're trying.
Hmm.
And lo
But
and
Randy, I'm
behold,
trying to beat all of them. I'm not
lo and
trying just to beat
behold,
mono green. I'm trying to beat
that's
all
an
of them.
that's another deck that like struggles against High Noon.
Mono green.
Weird. Yeah. You know how fun it is when Mono Green opens up with the nuts of like turn one, having their ley line, and you're like, all right, cool. They went turn one ley line elf, and I went turn two high noon, and they're just like, huh. I was like, yeah, man, you got 1,000 mana. You can play one spell. Choose wisely.
Hey, just
And it
saying.
turns out just slowing them down that much, and by that much I mean just basically stopping them in their tracks. Let me get up to Sunfall and then just like take them out. It's like, hey man, you finally built a board that could kill me. Sunfall.
Get rid of it. No value for you.
Yeah, you get no value, and also just I don't care. I want your Nixos to be banned.
Oh goodness. Yeah, I thought mono green was gonna be. I mean, it's still really good. I mean, I still had so many draws where I'm just like turn three, I'm casting like 5 or 10 spells. Like, here's my board. Like, technically, I fizzled in killing you, but I have 3 5 6s. I have 3 different 4 4s, a bunch of 4 2s, and a bunch of 1 1s. Like, I'm gonna win the game next turn. Like, you figure it out.
Yeah, yeah. I will say I think that like Mono Green still has a problem where it loses to itself.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the problem with Mono Green is like you get to do all these things. That's not wrong, but there's so many times where like if you just like someone kills your elf on one, and then thoughts is you on like turn two or turn three, you're just like, cool. I can't do anything, and my opponent is still developing their board. Awesome.
I feel like it. I think the right way to or the right deck to equate this to is does feel very like Tron esque, where I've had plenty of games where I've been interacted with like early. My elf dies, and then my like invasion ends up only finding like another land, and of course you need a critical mass of green pips to make the Nykthos actually a land worth grabbing. There's definitely a few games where I got interacted with early, and my opponent put a very quick clock on me. It's like I could cast like my best spell, but only one for so many turns before it's like, okay, it's just not gonna matter. I'm gonna need a lot more. But then there's also been games where the beginning has happened, but then they've kind of dirtled. Maybe they had too much interaction, and now I'm starting to just be able to play my threats one at a time, and that be good enough because it puts you at even and then ahead rather than playing from way far behind and trying to catch up from there.
Yeah, I do think that is the biggest thing. Is like Mono Green is one of those decks where like if it gets interacted with and then you put on at least some kind of pressure, it's in a bad position. But like I think that's why like if red green or red black still is the de facto aggro deck. It's a good deck against mono green too, because they put on a fast clock and then they can kill through a wall of blockers as well with the swordsman,
Mm-hmm.
being a Callous Swordsman, being able to like, okay, cool, I'm gonna sack my mouse. He's a 7/7 or he's a 7 power creature. He's gonna do 7 damage, and then when I sacrifice him, he's gonna do another 7 damage. There's 14 damage out of nowhere. Did you gain life this game? Oh, you didn't. That's cool. You're dead. Because I definitely did, 6 damage to you before we got to this roadblock. And so I think that's like the biggest thing about like why mono black or the black red deck is doing so well is it's able to kill through the roadblock that mono green usually puts up. Where it's like, okay, you're an aggro deck. Well, here's like 18 power creatures that you need to get through to even hit me. And it's like, all right, cool. Pump, 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 throw.
Mm-hmm.
That's you had 18 power. That's cool. I had 18 power. I just did directly to your face. So
And
good
like
game.
the Rakdos deck is just so the aggro deck is so good. Like the even like how far after like Outlaws of Thunder Junction came out and the Slick Shot Show Off is still like proving to be kind of a staple and like a cornerstone of these aggro decks that exist in the format.
Yeah, it turns out he's just wrecking face still.
Yeah, I mean, definitely has a pretty good supporting cast, but there's just still so many games where you could play this like on turn two and then turn three. It's like pump pump, like that being a very good like pump pump throw because you don't have to sacrifice the creature as an additional cost, so you get the extra 2 power before you deal damage to something, and
Yeah,
have to sacrifice them. So
yeah, yeah. It's crazy like the amount of kills I got by throwing something because I got the prowess trigger with it.
mm-hmm.
Where it's just like I'm like doing the math. I was like, I think I'm sure. I'm like, oh no, I get the prowess trigger. Cool. Or like I get the heroic trigger. That's not heroic.
Yeah, the Valiant.
Valiant. Thank you. I couldn't remember what the mouse's triggers were. But yeah, I get like the Valiant trigger, on it because, and it's just like so. It's just so much better. Like it's honestly crazy how good that is. But that is another deck too. I'm thinking about just taking as well because it's done so well for me. Like I'm literally 9-1 in 2 leagues with that deck, and the only deck I lost to was mono green, having the nut 2 games in a row. And like game one, they kind of like they started off like they didn't start off slow, but they started off just slow enough to where I was just like they took some damage early on, and then they made their wall of creatures, and I just threw 14 damage at them. I was like, cool man, that's great that you have like 18 toughness. I'm gonna throw 14 at your face. And then game two and three, they just had literally the nuts. I was like, I can't. Like, it's the same thing that happens with any deck where like no deck can beat mono green when it just like opens up and is like, hey man, I have the perfect 7. You're gonna lose.
Turn two play a 5/6 ramp is very powerful. Is very good.
Yeah, like when they go turn two, play at 5/6 into like turn three, just like whoops, here's half my deck. It's like, cool man, there's not a board wipe for 3 that kills us. Like,
I've been very. I mean, all things considered, I've been pretty impressed with like mono green. It's just exactly what I thought it would be. It's a deck that, if they stop the snowball when you start rolling it, it's whatever. It looks bad a lot of the time. It feels bad a lot of the time. But once that thing gets rolling downhill, once it gets to about 2-3 foot tall, you ain't stopping that thing.
no, I think the biggest thing with mono green right now is like it's just a deck that I think loses to itself more than anything. Where like if you fizzle out or they interact with you with this like 1 to 2 interaction spells, you can just like not do anything. And it feels like I think it feels more like Storm in modern.
Uh, I don't know. I think it's a deck that you, I guess, more fitting to Tron, not just because it's like makes a ton of mana, but it's a deck that you want to mulligan to like a hand that does something like crazy.
Yeah,
If you just have like your opener is like one land, or I guess like Forest Nykthos, Elf, Leyline, then it's like, hey, whatever I draw on like turn two, I'm gonna be able to like more than likely play. Like it
yeah,
just that's I think kind of the nature of it and the thing that I learned playing it and something I wish I would have done more when playing it is just like mulligan fairly aggressively.
That's fair.
Look
I think
look
that's
for look for a nut draw on like turn like on your 7 or 6 card hand, because if it doesn't have it, then a lot of the time too the little bit of interaction plus pressure is just going to get you anyway.
Mhm. I will say I think the biggest problem with that deck though is that it doesn't have a good red black aggro matchup.
Good enough
Like
reason to.
the fact that like their game one, if they like game one you need to have the nuts to beat them, and game two and three they now get to bring in Thoughtseize against you. So like you keep a super powerful hand and it's like Thoughtseize you 2 times in a row. You're like, cool, my hand no longer functions as a like I no longer function as a deck, and I know they're gonna bring aggro because the rest of their deck is 1 drops, 2 drops, and pop spells. So I think that's like the biggest problem I have with mono green is like the essentially the best deck or most played deck in the format is also now your worst matchup. It's like, cool. Is that what you want to take to RC? I mean, don't get me wrong. You can just high roll. Like as much as I will sit here and talk about the skill and choosing your deck and stuff like that, there is some amount of luck in Magic to where like if your opponents just draw badly, you draw well, or you don't flood out, you don't mana screw at all. Like those are the games where like that's how you just can take down a tournament very easily. Where like, hey man, I had like even till draws and I let the skill of my own comprehension take me the rest of the way. Where like I drew a good mixture of lands and spells, and then I knew how to sequence those in the correct order to win. Is much better than like, hey man, I drew 16 lands in game one and then drew 1 land in game two. Turns out that I didn't win either of those games for some weird reason.
Huh, weird.
Weird.
Some would say.
Yeah. But no, I think Pioneer is interesting. Me and Dakota are definitely going to be talking more about Pioneer moving forward because we're both qualified for the RC and DC. So we're definitely trying to take, what we think is the best deck of the format or what we perceive as the best deck to take into that format and are going to be playtesting some. I know we got a couple different sessions planned to playtest. We might try to record some of those or do something with those as a whole, just to kind of showcase where we're coming from, what we're thinking about, kind of explain like how you should be playtesting essentially, or like a way to playtest, I should say,
Amen to that.
because
Yeah.
it's great to run into leagues and do all these things, but like you don't get the best players possible when you're playing in leagues. Even in challenges, like you don't get the best players possible in the challenges. Like it's open to anyone. It's not. There's no skill level required essentially. It's not here to diminish anyone who plays in leagues or plays in challenges. For their playtesting, I'm not saying that's a bad way to do it. I'm just saying that is the problem with that is you are still running into like random people that are either really good, really bad, or somewhere in between. And so like your best bet is to try to find people to play test against, so you know what like their skill level is, essentially, so that you can play test against someone who has the right mindset. And then especially with like this event, all the RCs are open deck lists, so like there's no point in not knowing what your opponent's playing against because you're going to sit down and see their entire deck before the round even starts.
Very true.
So
Very
like
true.
I know when we're playtesting, we're gonna know what we're up against. So like if I'm gonna be like the person playing the random decks and he's gonna try out Jund Sacrifice, like I'm like, hey, I'm gonna go get I'm gonna go rent mono green because there's no reason for him not to know because like he's gonna know that when he sits down against his opponent and they're on mono green, he's gonna see Nykthos and go, oh, mono green.
Yeah, that
So
definitely. I mean, I don't know. I don't think there's any. I guess personally for me, any like familiarity that I'm gonna need with the format, uh,
no,
but for other people, like yeah, if you're going to try to really hammer things down, like that's the first thing is just do your homework.
yeah, learn what the decks are, learn what they're playing. Obviously, there's new decks popping up, like the red black aggro deck has popped up. Like that deck didn't exist, 4 weeks ago. That deck popped up out of nowhere. Quotation marks around that, but like, make sure you know what they're playing. Make sure you know what like they could be playing type thing, and then that way when you look at the deck lists, when you sit down against them, okay, they're playing like stock build. I know this, or and like don't be afraid to if you see a card like, hey, what I have no idea what this card is. Like just ask your opponent to show you them. If they want to be a dick, they can make you call a judge, but like there's no point because the judge is going to give you the exact oracle card of that. So like it's not like and you know they're playing it. It's not like oh they might be playing towards the tower in their deck. It's like no, you registered 3 copies. I know
Mm-hmm.
you're playing that card. There's no doubt in my mind.
Mm-mm-mm.
So, but I don't think I have anything else to say about Pioneer currently.
No, I don't think I really have anything to add for, really for I guess for either format. I think it's going to be kind of crunch time coming for us because we're about a few weeks out from, I mean, really like a tournament to potentially qualify for the Pro Tour, and of course that's a huge goal. So just trying to make sure that all the uh, I's are dotted, T's are crossed, all the P's and Q's are checked, everything like that.
Yeah, we are essentially we're 2 full weeks away from it, and then we'll have about 5 days to play test still from there. But because we're recording this on like the 14th, so we have till the 21st, the 28th, and then that next weekend, the 5th, is when we'll be sitting down playing against our opponents.
Exciting stuff.
Very exciting, very not not nervous, but like almost annoying. Trying to we gotta get all our cards together, things like that.
Yeah,
So
that actually like play these in playing in paper. I'll probably end up like shuffling through and playing just so many like solitaire games like goldfishing with it for a while.
yeah, make sure you know what your lines are when you're playing an actual paper.
Yeah, so many triggers. Anyway, I'm off of it. I don't want to think about it now. I'm ready for sleepy time junction because this like 5-year-old is gonna wake me up at 6 a.m. I just know it. Never gets up any earlier than that. But now that it's just me and I'm a nighttime person, I'm gonna have to be up at 6 a.m. on 2 hours of sleep.
Well, you'll at least get a good night's sleep before the tournament.
I'll get a good nap. Oh, yeah, before the tournament, yeah. Like I'm planning on taking an almost lethal amount of melatonin to hard set into a regular person schedule.
That makes sense. You gotta try to start that like on Wednesday, Thursday type thing.
Heck,
So that way.
no, no. We're gonna take it when we get in the car on the drive there. We're gonna fight it off until we get there.
Okay, so I'm gonna drive. That's what I just heard.
Uh,
Yeah, I'm gonna drive. That's what I heard.
but but yeah, that's episode 19, Casual Spikes podcast. Next week, uh, Duskmorn should I think already is fully spoiled, but we can talk
Yeah.
about some stuff there because I think that the set is perfectly set up for spoopy season as we come up on it.
Yes. Yeah, I like the set as a whole. I like the design of the set. I just don't think there's gonna be that many cards that impact Pioneer, and I think probably nothing that impacts Modern.
Giving it away now when we have the whole episode next week to fucking talk about it.
I'm just saying, it looks like a great standard set, and that's about it.
Just looks like a great set. Period. He's just a big old bottle of haterade.
Listen, listen, just a little, okay, just a little.
But that'll do it for this episode of the Casual Spikes podcast. Of course, again, if you are interested in having more videos from myself or Randy, I'll have Randy's channel linked in the description down below. You can subscribe here if you want to check out more of my content. I have some other links and stuff in the description down below, Discord server, things like that. Randy's in there as well, so if you end up having a question to ask him, you can add him over there, and I'm sure he will answer at some point.
Yeah, I will try to answer for sure.
Um,
Um,
same thing with me. I'm trying to be at least a little bit more active in there, and I still am doing a pretty bad job of it. But if that's something that interests you, that is something that you can be a part of here.
yes, and as always, guys, if you see us at DC, don't be afraid to stop by and say hi. We'll be
Also
excited that
true.
you actually know who we are.
That is very true. It has been a kind of euphoric and a imposter syndrome experience all at the same time, where it's like, wow. I even had someone on Moto recognize me, and I was playing against them, and they were playing a really sweet like life gain like counters deck. I was like, oh, this is actually really neat, and we had a pretty good conversation. So I definitely do love and appreciate that.
Only Amalia was around to see it.
They told me that they were a staunchly a Rakdos Vampires player, had all the stuff already like pre Pro Tour, was just like this will be a fun deck to play, and it turns out it ended up being probably one of the best decks in Pioneer's history. So shout out to them. I can actually pull them up real quick.
That's great. They read the room, they saw that it was a great deck, and they're like, yeah, man, it's gonna be great to play. It's like, oh, actually, it's the best deck in the format. It's like, oh, cool. Now it's banned before the RC.
No, they picked it up. They told me that they picked it up because they were like, this seems like a really fun deck to play. Like the Sorin Vein Ripper just seems like a really cool fun thing to do. So they just picked it up and it was like, yeah, no, that was like the thing. I believe it was like dollaries, like drolleries. They commented on my last video and stuff. They were really cool, super fun to talk to. I absolutely had a blast and enjoyed it. And they were a great opponent, and I've had it happen a few times on Moto now, but every time it does happen, it's kind of crazy.
Nice.
But all right, that's gonna do it. I hope y'all enjoyed it. Again, subscribe, notification bell, all that fun stuff. Check out any of the additional links in the description down below, and we will see you all next week for some Duskborn stuff and any updates to Modern Pioneer if we get anything significant.